This is month 6 of the First Thursday Mystery. This month in your kit you have 11 colored rectangles and 11 white rectangles. In addition to that, you will need either a hexagon template, and there is one in your pattern, or a hexagon ruler. And the ruler is what I'm going to be using. This one is from Easy Quilting, and it is exactly the right size. It's the identical size to the one in the template, so it saves a little bit of time and it's just a little bit easier. If you choose not to buy the ruler, you will need to make a template from the pattern in the package. I would recommend template plastic, and then you're going to need to draw around it and cut your shapes that way. I have already spray starched all my pieces and pressed them dry. The first thing we're going to do is cut hexagons from our colored rectangles. I would recommend that you use either a small mat, it doesn't have to be this small, or a rotating mat, which is what this one is, to cut your hexagons, because you're not going to want to lift the fabric up and move it. And you're going to have a hard time cutting around this hexagon without rotating it. So with the rotating mat, cut, rotate, and you can actually cut 2 or 3 sides and rotate. And when you're doing them, you can certainly stack up some. I was stacking up 2 or 3 when I was making my whole stack. The one thing you want to be sure of is that your grain line is going up and down, and that will be from point to point in one spot. So, whoops, I missed a spot. So all your hexagons will just be cut like this. From each of the white rectangles, we are going to cut 2 2 3/8 by 4-inch rectangles, and this is how I did it. I squared off 2 edges, and then rotated it. And 2 3/8 times 2 is 4 3/4. So I did 4 3/4 by 4. Okay. And then I just backed it up to the 2 3/8, and the 1/8 inch mark is probably going to be between some of the solid lines, or almost solid lines, on your ruler. This is not right. This way. There's my 4. 2 3/8. It's here. Okay, this leaves me with 2 rectangles of the same size. We are going to cut these in half diagonally. This is very important, and it doesn't say it in the pattern. You need to follow the diagrams in the pattern. One rectangle is cut diagonally from top to bottom, and the other rectangle is cut in half diagonally from bottom to top. It's not like a square where when you cut it in half diagonal, it doesn't matter, that it'll be the same no matter what. So with these rectangles, when I stack them up, I get one set that's going one direction and one set that's going the other direction, and we need that. We need the mirror image. My next step is to take one of these, oops, that's the wrong way. One of these triangles, and it probably is helpful if you lay it out, because we're going to make another rectangle out of this. It's going to be sewn together like that, but we're going to do opposite sides first. So lay it out. Your narrow end of the triangle should be down on the point. We still want to keep our grain line going up and down so that our sides are straight of grain. So I flipped it over, and I left is probably about a 1/2 inch hanging off over on this side. We will be squaring these up at the end. And same thing on this side, and so with a 1/4 inch seam, both of these. So here's my piece stitched, which is my 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going to take it to my ironing board and I'm going to press the seam toward the white triangles. My hexagon with the triangles has been pressed with the seams going out toward the white. Now my next step is to add on the last 2 triangles for this hexagon. So again, it's going to be opposite sides, and I did leave about 1/2 inch hanging out here. You do want to make sure there's a little overhang here. So I'm here and here, and stitch with a 1/4 of an inch. I did do these chain piecing when I did a whole bunch of them at once. Once it's stitched, once again we are pressing the seam allowances out toward the white, so it looks like that on the back. Our last step is to trim this block up. We want the block to measure 5.5 inches wide, that's this way, by approximately 6 1/4 high. Our hexagon, when we cut it, was 5.5 inches wide. So we're just going to use those straight lines on both sides. So I have it lined up right here, and I actually have my 5.5 mark over here on the edge. And square up that side. Then rotate it 5.5 over here again, and it should be running right along the cut edge of our hexagon. 5.5, and cut that off. So now it's 5.5 wide, and we want to trim so that we have a 1/4 of an inch up beyond the point. So I am still going to line up a line to make sure I keep it straight on my edges, and my 1/4 of an inch mark. Doesn't matter which line as long as it's staying straight here, but we want the 1/4 of an inch mark there, and 6 and how big? Yep. Cut that off, and my 1/4 of an inch mark again. And at this point I'm still keeping lines lined up on the edges to keep it straight, but I should also, as long as it's coming out right, it should be 6 1/4 here. If it's not exactly 6 1/4, it's not a problem. Just leave your 1/4 inch above and below. And that is the block for this month. That one's pretty easy in my opinion.